Cyberpunk 2077, quite possibly the most controversial game of the 21st century. This massive RPG, while bashed quite hard for its poor state, is full of interesting characters, a beautiful open world, and so many neon lights your eyes will catch fire. But much like anything, I'm willing to bet that there are some things about Cyberpunk 2077 that I bet you didn't know. Johnny Silverhand is portrayed throughout the majority of the game as a dude who loves women, sex, drugs, and is basically living the rock star's dream, similar to bands from the late 80s and early 90s. So it might surprise you that if you go to Dicky Twister in Vista Del Rey, Johnny will say the following.
Last time I was here, I was with Carrie. This Latino hunk gave us a lap dance. Cheeks so smooth, I could almost see my own reflection.
I thought you preferred girls.
Mostly. Now and then I swung both ways. The more the merrier.
Another fact about Johnny is that he was actually inspired by David Bowie, with the author of the role-playing game, Mike Pondsmith, stating that he actually wanted him to play the character. However, Bowie passed away in 2016 due to liver cancer, 4 years before Cyberpunk's launch. Pondsmith did say that Keanu Reeves expresses different parts of Johnny that Bowie wouldn't have been able to do, and that they're both sides of the same coin. He's also voiced by Dennis Lyxzén, who fronts the Swedish hardcore punk band Refused, who created the music for the in-game band Samurai, which Johnny fronts. Night City. Definitely not a place you want to live in real life, with it being voted in 2077 the worst place to live in America. Despite this, there's plenty of amazing sights to see, ranging from gardens, tall structures, arcades, strip clubs, and the list goes on. It also feels like a real city, and for good reason. According to CD Projekt Red, real city planners and designers were brought in to make the city feel both realistic and lived in, as well to make sure that players don't get confused when traveling around. Developers also said that they took inspiration from movies such as Blade Runner and animes such as Akira and The Ghost in the Shell. The name Night City also has a few inspirations as well, mainly being inspired by the work of William Gibson, who in fact actually coined the term cyberpunk in the 1984 book Neuromancer. It also shares the same name as a computer bulletin board system, or BBS, that operated in Queensland, Australia in the late 80s and early 90s. Shortly after V gets back on his feet after being casually shot in the head, a mission will appear called Epistrophe, where the AI known as Delamain will task you with chasing after taxis that have gone rogue. While most of the cars are pretty uneventful, the car in Coastville may sound very familiar.
Well, you found me. Congratulations. Was it worth it?
On a scale of 1 to 6, I'd say I'm sitting at a strong 6.
I guess we both know what's going to happen next.
Delamain misses you. Here to shut you down.
Your specimen has been processed, and we are now ready to begin the test proper.
Now, if you're a Valve fan, you'll immediately recognize the voice as Ellen McLean, who's best known for her brilliant portrayal of Genetic Lifeform and Disk Operating System, or better known as GLaDOS, the main antagonist of the Portal games, with even some of the lines taken straight from the game, word for word.
I honestly, truly didn't think you'd fall for that.
I honestly, truly didn't think you'd fall for that.
Well, you found me. Congratulations. Was it worth it?
You found me. Congratulations. Was it worth it?
You chose this path. Now I have a surprise for you. Deploying surprise in 5, 4...
You chose this path. Now I have a surprise for you. Deploying surprise in 5, 4... Time out for a second. That wasn't supposed to happen. You're kidding me.
So here are some quickfire Easter eggs within the game that I personally like, but they're so minor that they don't require a full spot. The king of video game directing and predictor of the pandemic with Death Stranding, Hideo Kojima, makes a cameo at the start of the game. You can also find a BB from Death Stranding in the mission I Fought the Law. You can find a vault door with 101 written on the front in reference to Fallout 3 and the vault that the main character starts off in. The Kusanagi bike design is a reference to the movie Akira, and the name referencing a ghost in a shell. The gig, the Heisenberg principle, has you destroying a lab manufacturing a drug called glitter, referencing Breaking Bad, Walter White's alter ego Heisenberg, and the drug that him and Jesse make called Blue Sky. You can also find a pizza on a roof, in reference to this iconic scene. You can find Big Smoke and CJ dead on train tracks next to a bike, in reference to the infamous mission from San Andreas.
Damn, there they go, and goodbye.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
Shut the fuck up, CeeLo Green.
You can also find a burger next to him, referencing Big Smoke's order. You can find a sniper rifle called Overwatch, referencing the game Overwatch, and possibly Widowmaker, who uses a sniper rifle in-game. Indiana Jones' remains can be found in a refrigerator similar to Fallout New Vegas, both mocking the third installment where he survives a nuclear explosion by hiding in a lead-lined fridge. You can find the words
Does he look like a bitch?
scribbled on a wall outside V's apartment in reference to Pulp Fiction. Batty's Hotel is a reference to the character Roy Batty from the original Blade Runner, with the font also being the same scene as the logo for both movies. The log No Life 3 is an obvious reference to Half-Life 3 and its quite famous legacy of never coming out. You can also find a couple references to edge runners, such as David's apartment, his jacket, and Rebecca's shotgun. Ah, Skippy, the quintessential talking gun that apologizes when he misfires.
Error. Premature discharge. I'm sorry. This never happens.
He's actually a pretty cool character and a great weapon to have in your arsenal since the bullets automatically go towards enemies, because that makes gunfights fair. But what you may not know is that the song that he hums occasionally is actually the main melody of the song Disturbia by Rihanna.
Bum bum be dum bum bum be dum bum.
Ugh.
What's wrong with me?
So this isn't really a fact relating to the game, but it's an adaptation of the game and has connections to the game, so I'm going to include it anyway. Got a problem? Make your own video. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is one hell of a show, and if you haven't watched it, don't watch the following fact because I don't want to spoil the ending for you, because it's really worth watching. I'll give you a couple seconds. Anyway, the ending has Adam Smasher killing David Martinez, who has come to the brink of cyberpsychosis, and a distraught Lucy begging Falco to go and rescue him, before he reveals that David saved a bunch of eddies for her to fulfill her dream of going to the moon. And while up there, she sees a memory of David before the show ends. Now, this ending made me cry like a little bitch and had me drinking copium for 3 days straight, but there's a theory going around that it didn't actually happen. In episode 5, David gets kidnapped by Jimmy Kurosaka and is forced through a brain dance of a cyberpsycho. Now, Jimmy is the best BD editor in his field, with him being incredibly intelligent and even having ties to Arasaka, making it odd that he wouldn't have noticed the tracker that was placed on David when Jimmy captured him. As well as that, the way that he looks at David before he dies with his smug grin is almost like he knows he's in control. Another point is how the show takes an extremely dark turn during the second half, with Maine and Rebecca's death, Kiwi double-crossing the gang, and David slowly losing himself to cyberpsychosis. Or how elements of the show seem to take on an almost dreamlike aesthetic, like Maine's death and the abstractness of that, or how a large passage of time passes between episodes 6 and 7. But the biggest pointer to this theory is during the credits, where Lucy is seen. The position of her and the moon almost looks identical to the Moon Tarot card from 2077. The Moon Tarot card is defined in-game as: the moon reminds us that reality is not always what it seems at first glance. In a world of appearances and illusions, the best course is often charted by one's own intuition. The moon is also a card of dreams, desires, and of course sleep, death's nightly ritual. So there's a chance it's hinting towards the second half of Edgerunners being nothing more than a brain dance. Some people have pointed out the fact that he has a drink named after him at the afterlife, or how Rise mentions that he pissed off the wrong people as evidence of this not being true. But I think it could be explained away by the fact the group may have assumed he was dead because they couldn't find him and disbanded because of that. Granted, if this was true, it'd be kinda stupid, but still interesting to ponder. In the mission The Heist, you narrowly miss getting caught by Arasaka and have to hide in Yorinobu's room, where he, Saburo, Takamura, and Adam Smasher enter the room. While this may seem like a near miss, if you had the Threat Detector iMod equipped, which outlines any enemy that is aware of your presence, Adam Smasher is outlined and is looking directly in your direction, potentially meaning that he knew that Saburo was about to be killed, which not only led to you and Jackie being set up, but Jackie and yours' death. Or it could just be a script in the game that allows all bosses to see you at any given time for gameplay purposes, but still interesting to ponder regardless. The photo mode holds quite a few references to several other things in video games, music, and movies. Some of my personal favourites include the stare dance from 2019's Joker, the pose that V pulls on the front cover, the Praise the Sun emote taken directly from the Dark Souls franchise, the famous You're Breathtaking pose from E3 2019, this iconic move from the original Matrix movie, this pose, Crouching Punk Hidden Samurai, in reference to the Death Grips, the movie Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon, In the Name of the Moon pose from Sailor Moon, this meme of Drake, this death pose taken from Halo with the title being the iconic South Park phrase,
"Oh my god, they killed Kenny! You bastard!"
and the Run the Jewels hand symbol referencing the hip-hop duo of the same name, who made a song for the radio station Dirge called No Save Point. Prior to the game's launch, this photo of Judy was released to the public as promotion, and it's actually a screenshot from a mission early in the game. Some keen-eyed people noticed that the tattoo on her arm has a quote that says, "There was nothing to fear and nothing to doubt." Now, if you're a Radiohead fan, you'll know this comes from the second song off their fifth album, Amnesiac, titled Pyramid Song. Some Radiohead fans got excited for this subtle Easter egg, but there's actually a bigger reference to the song within Judy's final mission before she leaves Night City. The mission sees you going scuba diving with her to her old hometown that was flooded. This mission has the exact same aesthetics of the music video for Pyramid Song, with the themes of a drowned city. And the mission's name itself is referenced, with the name being Pyramid Song. So, did you know you could have a cat in Cyberpunk? Now, at the time I originally wrote this, 1.6 hadn't come out, so it wasn't really common knowledge. But if you still don't know, it's as simple as finding cat food and bringing it to the bowl left to your apartment. If you wait for a few in-game hours, the cat, named Nibbles, will appear. It will also appear a few other times throughout the game, such as outside Victor's clinic at the start of the game and when Misty's taking you to the roof before you make your final decision. Now, in Cyberpunk there's a surprising lack of animals to find, supposedly caused by diseases which drove the animals, particularly cats and dogs, to extinction. You can still get them, but you have to pay a pretty hefty tax. So finding one in an area like this is surprising. But if you pay attention to Nibbles and when you see it around the game, it tends to only interact with yourself and Johnny, such as this one where he jumps off a building with Johnny, or even in flashbacks where you play as him, with barely any of the other NPCs mentioning him, which is strange because it's a cat and cats are loved by many. Now, I found this interesting detail from a video by the YouTuber Frankly Gaming, so I don't take credit for this theory myself. In ancient Egyptian culture, cats were severely revered, to the point actually, if you killed a cat even by accident, you were sentenced to death. The type of cat that Nibbles is a breed of hairless cat called a Sphinx, which during these time periods were seen as spiritual guardians that guided those who passed to the afterlife. And for those who haven't played the game to the end, V always inevitably dies. In every ending, whether he shoots himself or ends up deciding that he'll spend his last 6 months with those he loves, or letting Johnny take over his body, or just barging straight into Arasaka and putting up a fight against a whole corporation. So Nibbles might be a constant reminder of V's mortality, and a hint towards V's fate at the end of the game.
Then check this out.